the first ASUCR meeting of the fall quarter of academic year 2014 to 2015. We're very delighted to have you all here so you can experience firsthand all the projects and representation that your student government is doing for you. Now, to do a quick introduction before we move on with the other items on our agenda, I will yield the floor to our President, Nafi Karim, as he delivers the State of Association address. Mr. President.
Good evening, Mr. Speaker, Executive Cabinet, members of Senate, esteemed directors, and my fellow Highlanders. We gather here today to begin a year full of promise and potential to reach new heights and make unprecedented advances in the way that we serve and give value to the student body. While we may come from different constituencies, we, as the student government, are entrusted with and have the responsibility to not only represent our individual constituencies, but to come together and serve and do what brings the most good to the collective student body. We should always remember that students pay at least $12.50 each quarter to ASUCR. Not because they just want to give us free money, but because they would like us to serve them with greater value by pulling everyone's monies together and in extension ideas and collectively achieve what we cannot achieve individually. While the potential to make a positive difference is substantial, we must be aware of and try to minimize the possibility of derailment. What am I talking about? Are we going to be an obstructionist student government that nitpicks and uses rhetoric to tear down ideas? Or will we be a productive student government that acknowledges fundamental differences as fundamental differences and only gives constructive feedback with the genuine intent to work collaboratively to make something better? Ultimately, it is your prerogative, which will define this association and everything that follows. I encourage you all to hold true to the promises that you make and deliver results, whether they're to increase campus pride, student empowerment, and most importantly, adding value to the students' undergraduate experience. I would like to direct us to make our processes and operations more user-friendly by reducing bureaucracy and streamlining our finance allocation processes. I would also challenge us to make our meetings more effective and efficient by sharing information that others actually want or need to know or are interdependent on. Effective meetings do not need to be long, nor should it be a list of accomplishments of what I did last week. Rather, it should only involve information with individuals who are directly affected. Most importantly, every action that we take must be tempered with the intent to maximize value and bring the most good for the student body as a whole. We have already made great strides over the summer. While I would list them out for you, that would be going against my word and it would be a list of accomplishments. So, I will simply extend my thank you to the Executive Cabinet, my fellow directors, and members of Senate who worked hard over the summer in bringing our projects to life. I would like to thank all of you for being part of the force that made history last spring. If it were any other group, I would just say that's enough for the year and call it a day. But you're not just any other Senate. I, along with the student body, have the highest of expectations for you this year. You made history as candidates. Now, make history as elected leaders of this student body. Thank you.
Thank you, President Nafi Karim. We'll now move on to the next section of our agenda, Section C, for roll call. Senator Christian Arredondo. Senator Reem Blake.
Present.
Senator Akeem Brown.
Present.
Senator Fabian Escobedo.
Present.
Senator Ali Isles.
Present.
Senator Jackie Jacoby.
Present.
Senator Colette King.
Present.
Senator Delaney Koenig.
Present.
Senator Richard Lee.
Present.
Senator Carlton Newman.
Present.
Senator Priscilla Perret.
Present.
Senator Jason Ramirez.
Present.
Senator Herman Sanga.
Present.
Senator Summer Schaefer.
Present.
Senator Samuel Witt.
Present.
President Pro Tempore Devin Plazo.
Present.
Personnel Director Ashley Harana.
Present.
Marketing and Promotions Director Rabin Mathad.
Present.
Elections Director Stephanie Rose.
Present.
Outreach Director Jessica Arquidez.
Present.
Vice President of Campus Internal Affairs Fernando Chavarria.
Present.
Vice President of External Affairs Abraham Galvan.
Here.
Vice President of Finance Ira Shang.
Present.
President Amin Perret.
Present.
And I myself. Next item on our agenda, we'll move on to Section D on approval of the agenda. Are there any motions that need to be made to approval of the agenda? Vice President of Finance Ira Shang.
I motion to update the agenda.
To add your updates? Okay. We have a motion to add Vice President of Finance Ira Shang's report to the agenda. All those in favor? Oh, sorry. Is there a second? Yes, okay. Seconded by Vice President of Campus Internal Affairs Fernando Chavarria. All those in favor? All those opposed? And abstained. By a vote of 16 on, this motion passes. We will now include Vice President Shang. Okay, moving on to our next section of the agenda, we have Section E for approval of Senate minutes. While there is no previous Senate meeting of which we'll be approving, which will be passed around, this will be the approval of the summer meeting ECAB minutes. Now, these are in default mode of approval unless there is a motion to either amend or rescind the actions taken during the summer meetings. So at this time, I will now open up the floor for motions. Okay, seeing none, we will make the approval for the Senate for the ECAB minutes during the summer. These will promptly be added to the website as soon as possible. Moving on to our next section, Section F for public forum. This public forum is intended for members of the audience who wish to address Senate on matters concerning anything that would regard new business in response to what you would want to inform ASUCR. So for all those who would like to come up and speak, the podium is in front. Simply come up and state your name for recording purposes, and everyone has 3 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Jim Samuel. I'm the Vice Chancellor for Student Affairs, and I'm going to follow our President's directive here and be brief and to the point. And my primary point is just to extend, on behalf of Chancellor Wilcox, a welcome to each and every one of you to the 2014-15 academic year, and more specifically to your role as senators. I know that there's quite a few new faces in the group, a few that we know very well. But one of the things that I wanted to make sure that is very well understood in this year's Senate is that the administration is here to fully support you in all of your activities and endeavors. And I couldn't agree more with the spirit of President Green's message, and that is that our availability isn't just during the Senate meetings, but real literally at any point in time throughout the academic year in our offices, over lunch, etc. So that to the extent that there are issues of concern, there's not a need to wait for a formal meeting. Our doors are always open, and that we are, again, here to support you, to serve you, and most importantly, to serve all students at the University of California Liberty site. So, again, welcome to the new year, and thank you very much for committing your time to the important work of the Associated Students.
Thank you, Vice Chancellor Sandoval. Senator Akeem Brown.
Mr. Chairman, point of information on the last item prior to Vice Chancellor Sandoval's to adopt the summer meeting minutes. Can you please explain that process?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. As per bylaws, the summer ECAP minutes are in the default position of approval unless there is concern by the Senate to amend or rescind said minutes. Everyone on the Horseshoe has had a day minimum of 7 days, as well as previous discussion over the summer ECAP minutes. And so the floor is open up for motions for any lingering concerns that could be addressed. It would be open for deliberation and for amendment, possible rescindment. Since there were no motions made, the default approval will continue, and summer ECAP minutes have been approved and will now continue the way we posted on the website.
So that means that the actions within those minutes have been approved by the Senate.
Yes. Great. Moving on with our agenda. The next, actually, if there were anyone else who would like to speak for public forum. Okay. Seeing no volunteers, we can move on to section G of ex officio reports. If there are any ex officios present, please you can stand and present whenever you're ready. You have the floor for 3 minutes.
My name is Alexander Versace. I am the ex officio for the Interfederal Council. The only update I would like to provide for Senate is the fact that we have our fall forward recruitment going on at this current moment. It will be tonight and tomorrow, 8 to 9:30, as well as Saturday, 10 to 1:30. And then the following week will be the open rush events for the fraternity. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. Are there any ex officios present who would like to report?
Hello everyone, my name is Courtney Parker. I am the executive president for the Residents Health Association, also known as RHA. What RHA is the student government within the Grass Halls. So as executive president, I am responsible for overseeing as well as being the support system for everyone on the executive cabinet, which includes our 4 building presidents as well as our 4 vice presidents. The only report I have for you this week is we are in the process of electing our chairs, which work with our building presidents. Those applications are due this Friday, and their voting elections next week in their respective buildings. In about 2 weeks from now, we are also holding a dance for the fall Marshall program known as Monte Carlo. RHA is in charge of putting on that dance, so we'll be working on that. And lastly, if anyone on the Senate, as well as anyone in the public, wishes to come to RHA for a sponsorship request, room reservation, anything of that sort, all you need to do is visit our website at rha.ucr.edu. And our ECAP meetings are every Monday, 9 p.m. in the Capital Council, which is under Abilities F and G.
Great, thank you so much. Moving on with our agenda, subsection H for officer reports. We can begin with subsection 1 for Vice President of Campus Internal Affairs, Fernando Echeverria. Fernando, for 3 minutes.
Thank you everyone in the galley for coming. Thank you, Senate. Michael, could you pull up my report that I sent you in an email as well as all the documents? So just to get things started, the first thing on my meeting minutes is pretty much the rec center fee. This is something that's affected the campus as a whole. It's affected many of us here sitting on the Horseshoe and many of the student body outside of these doors. So just to give a little more clarification for the galley as well as Senate, I have provided 3 different documents. I'm kind of describing what the referendum was in 2010, explaining the UCOP policy on referendum, as well as giving you a sheet which you have before you. There's also some sheets on the table right here on the right. They actually have the rec center and how much it costs, where the fees went to, the cost of construction of the entire capital project for your viewing. So first things first. So the 2010 campus referendum, that's the year it was passed. Essentially, the student body was put up to a vote, and it passed by a 20% margin, with over 50% saying yes. So essentially, the referendum was passed then, and a referendum is binding by UCOP policy. So Michael, could you pull up the referendum piece? Thank you. So here we have the referendum, and we can see how it was structured, the introduction, that it acknowledges the campus community's interest in renovating and expanding the existing recreational center to accommodate the growing recreational activity needs and demands of UCR students. So essentially what was outlined was an outdoor recreational swimming pool, tripling the size of the fitness center, doubling the number of multi-purpose rooms, a juice bar, a higher climbing wall, a new gymnasium for basketball, badminton, volleyball, and soccer, fitness and testing and massage therapy space. So these are all the things that were outlined in the referendum itself that they said they were going to construct.
1 minute.
Thank you. So approximately this was 70,000 gross square feet of new space that's going to be created. So that they outlined all the things about the structure itself in the referendum. They explained the funding. They said the total project cost would be approximately $52.2 million. So the fee that would be generated is $149. We also have to take into account that 25% of that is returned to aid. So approximately $37.25 is taken out and it goes back to financial aid. And that's money that we receive through UCR grants and anything else that we may receive. That's how that money comes back in. So essentially, the fee itself is a little less than the 149 that's actually being used to cover the capital project. And also in the capital project, it includes maintenance and an operational budget. So you're not paying just for the mortgage of the building itself, you're also paying for the yearly assessments of maintenance as well as its operational costs.
And at this time, the Senate can make a motion if they wish to extend time for the office of report.
I move to allow the Vice President of Town Affairs to finish his report.
Do I have a second? Seconded by Trustee Blake. All those in favor? All those opposed? And abstained. By a vote of 16-0, this passes. Good night, meetings.
Thank you so much. Can we move to there's a hyperlink inside my report itself, if you can click on that.
Point of personal privilege. Michael, before we continue, can I have you forward these? Can you please forward these to all of us so that we can have them readily available? Because, like, for me, it's really rather difficult to read them off the screen, and I'm trying to like pour over Fernando's shoulder, but I don't want to do that the whole time. And then in the future, if we can be forwarded to all of us, or like sent to all of us, without
Is that mistaken? So we're just going to cover the UCOP policy on campus-based student fees. So essentially what it states is in 91.00 is compulsory campus-based fees include fees levied at individual campuses which must be paid by all registered students to which the fee applies to fund student-related services and programs, including but not limited to student governments, construction, and renovation of student facilities such as student centers and recreational facilities, and student health insurance. So pretty much this is part of the UCOP policy that binds the referendum to us, which is why we cannot have a waive out option. There's other like just financial reasons we can't have an opt-out option for the recreational center, which includes instability in the funding source, which could make us default on our mortgage itself. So this is all like the nitty-gritty, like higher administration vocab and policy that's used to kind of determine how this fee is used, how it's incorporated, and why we as students cannot actually opt out of the recreational fee, even though it wasn't us directly that actually voted for the measure in the first place. The unfortunate side effect is that referenda are binding. But I gave you all the numbers just so you can all peruse. Members of the gallery, you're free to take any of the copies that are on the table right over there. If you have any further questions about the rec center fee, I kind of just wanted to go over it briefly, as well as we can probably take questions after my report's over as well to kind of specify any specifics that you may have questions about. So make sure to write those down. So essentially what I want to leave is on this last note. So I advise, like next time, especially when we think about passing referenda, that we really consider the impact of the future UC students that are coming into this university. because when we are essentially taking on fees and we're seniors or juniors, they may not affect us for a long time, or it may not even be enacted during our time at UCR. But remember that there are students coming after us that will be affected by it, which leads to the next point. So there is a fundamental truth in all this, that the UC is becoming privatized. That the student body in general starts paying more fees than that UCOP is actually providing. So essentially, we've already gone over that 50% threshold, which already makes us technically private. So I want to encourage the student body to really push UCOP to continue funding more academic resource centers, to provide more buildings on our campuses, and to restructure their administrative pay in order to fund all these different other things that we may need as resources as students in a public university. So that's kind of one of the note I want to end on, because these things, unfortunately right now we don't have a mechanism to sort of do away with the fee itself, but we can take precautionary measures to actually stop this from happening again. So the next thing on my agenda is actually going to be Eventful, which is our new application that we acquired over the summer. It's an event application used for organizations. Essentially, it is a Facebook event of sorts, but it just specifies on just events, and the entire campus body has the access to it. So any student here at UCR can actually go in, look at whatever organizations are doing, and they can go to them, and you just post everything. So it's a really open source application for anybody to really use and for anybody to really post events. So hopefully this is something we're going to start using over the next fall quarter. During tabling, we're also going to kind of have other students also find out about it. We're going to talk about how to register, how all that works. Just for clarification, student organizations, you can go in right now, just type in your email, register, and I'll send you a confirmation link, and voila, you actually can register for the UCR app. So the next thing is the construction of a transfer non-traditional task force. So traditionally, I think transfer students and non-traditional students in the large umbrella that actually composes non-traditional has been historically marginalized here at UCR. And there has never been an actual committee here at ASUCR to actually address the needs of these students, and overall campus-wide there hasn't been many resources. So I'm actually in the beginnings of actually creating this task force in order to address their community needs, as well as developing policy measures to actually help all students out and help them specifically. This is also going to act as a leadership pipeline for transfer students and non-traditional students who have never really stepped on this horseshoe. We only have one right now, that's Akeem Brown. So it's really been, there's a lot of things, there's a lot of students that don't get the opportunities that we have because we're here for 4 years. And there's other students that have only been here for 2 years that only have that 1 year to really become involved in AS. So essentially I want to create this pipeline in order for transfers and non-traditional students to actually become a part of this horseshoe or just become a part of ASUCR in general. So that's what we're hoping with the task force. My next note is going to be the Food Truck Festival. It's going to be on October 29th. I'm going to actually leave the majority of this to Raveen Rathod to explain, just because he's been more in charge of it. And I just kind of want to allow the campus community to know that we are still taking volunteers. You can contact Raveen or Rajit there. You can just contact them by their emails, and he's the marketing. So you can just go to marketing@ASUCR.ucr.edu, and you can get in contact with Raveen. You can volunteer, and send this is a way of you getting your hours finished as well. And this is coming up in the next 2 weeks. And lastly, I have 2 more things. We're going to host a multicultural festival. We have a tentative date for week 3 of spring quarter. So right now we're going to work with a lot of multicultural communities and ethnic and gender programming in order to really kind of develop a curriculum for the festival, to really allow different student communities to really kind of showcase their talents, sell their foods. So that's where we're really kind of going for with this multicultural festival. And if you have any further questions or you want to start getting involved in the process of creating the event, feel free to contact me. Lastly, I have the Neighborhood Housing Task Force. So over the summers, Senator-elect King and I, we actually were consulting the neighborhood, and we wanted to see how we could provide more affordable housing to the community and provide organizational housing for different organizations as well as fraternities and sororities. So when we've been in contact with the neighborhood, with the local University Neighborhood Association, and we've developed a new task force. Essentially, we're going to work with our neighborhoods to create to kind of also lobby City Hall as well as our UCR administration in order to kind of pass initiatives that are still neighborhood friendly as well as student friendly. So we want to make sure that we work together, because the more of a coalition we have, the more things we can do together. So that's essentially the goal of this task force, as well as just addressing any community issues so that we have a direct contact with the neighborhood, so that we don't have to call the police, we don't have to always get UCR administration involved, and we can start forming a community together and start developing good neighbor relations. That's about it. The meetings for that will be held on Saturday at 12 p.m. So if anyone's free to come, and they're going to be on the weekends because we're kind of catering to our neighbors. And that's essentially it. There's other things I could talk about, but I think this is like the things that really are affecting the student body at the present moment. Thank you so much for your time.
Okay, thank you so much, Campus Internal Affairs Manager Maria. Abraham Gabon.
Yeah, in regards to your neighborhood housing task force, if you could please send me more information in regards to this task force. As you know, I have a local affairs officer under my office that is solely responsible for engaging in local affairs and being the official representative of ASUCR to any outside entities in the local community. So it would be, I think, imperative for my local affairs officer to be aware of what this task force is and to sit on this task force in order for the task force to have official representation from ASUCR.
Thank you. Senator Kimbrell.
Y'all move to set officer updates to the next do I have a second?
I object to consideration of that motion on the grounds that this is the opportunity for the public to hear what we've done all summer. It's kind of hard to condense everything that we've done in 8 minutes. And I would say that it's a disservice to the public and to yourselves to limit discussion on that and to limit our ability to report on that. Anyways, I object to there being a limit on it. I think we come here on this motion knowing that we're going to be here for a little while. I think we all came to the understanding that we need to be here for a little while. That's what the public's been waiting for all summer. So I would object to any consideration of any time limit in regards to this topic.
Senator Kimbrell, do you wish to modify or withdraw your motion?
I move to set not to shorten the time that we're here. So we can keep it
We have, okay, we'll take those motions in order of precedence. The first one was a rejection consideration of the motion. Is there a second? Seconded by Senator Greenway. Okay, this needs a 2/3 majority, so all those in favor of rejection consideration of the motion? No. All those opposed? And abstain. By a vote of 9-3-3, this motion does, no, yeah, this motion's not good. Okay, we have rejected consideration of the motion, and we will now proceed with the agenda. Section 8, subsection 2, Vice President of External Affairs, Abraham Galvan. Abraham, you have the floor.
Great, thank you. So if you could please pull up my report. Okay.
Actually, sorry, before you proceed, actually, I want to clarify technical error. In this count, making the votes of 9-3-3 is not a 2/3 majority.
9 out of 12 is 2/3.
9 out of 16 is not 2/3.
Abstentions? It's of members voting and present. Voting and present means that they can't abstain. If you abstain, it means you're not voting. That's what abstention is. So it's 9 out of 12.
No.
So, as soon as you get my report, I'll begin. Okay, so I apologize. It is a longer report on 2 pages, and the reason, and I still want to present briefly to you all the new bylaw for my office that I will be hopefully passing through LRC and Finance for your approval next week. And the reason for this is that, as you can see, it's 4 months worth of work for my Office of External Affairs. So it's been difficult to pin that to down, but I tried my best, and I hope you will apologize. You will accept my apology for this being a longer report. So the first thing that I want to begin with is, and these are all in order of how things happened during the summer, and I hope everybody understands that this is meant to be a comprehensive but not exhaustive list of what my office has done during the summer. So what that means is it has a majority of the things, at least the bigger things, but it definitely does not include everything that we've done by any means. So the first thing that I did after assuming office is open an application and accept submissions for that to appoint my staff members. So I will, as per the bylaws, I must name my staff members to you all. Here they are. My External Affairs Chief of Staff, Lynn Union. My Legislative Affairs Directors, David Santillan and Nayeli Figueroa. My Campus Organizing Directors, Brianna Ross and Johnson Pham. My Vote Director, Neftali Galarza. My National Affairs Officer, Alexander Wilson. My Local Affairs Officer, Melissa Michael. Communications Officer, Wesley Sun. Labor Officer, Arturo Gomez. Diversity Officer, Priyanka Sharma. Regional Officer, Armand Assetti. Coalitions Officer, Ani Druva. Volunteer Officers, Ninja Das. And Marketing Officer, Kevin Martinez. So at this point, I would like to make a motion to approve the aforementioned officers. Some of these names are not explicitly as listed as bylaws, so my motion will be pending bylaw updates. So I move to approve the aforementioned officers pending bylaw updates.
Open the floor for motions or seconds. Fernando Sugar. Second by Fernando Sugar. All those in favor of approving personnel pending bylaw updates? All those in favor? All those opposed? And abstained. By a vote of 13-1-2, this motion passes.
Thank you, everybody. The next thing was I created a Facebook page for my office, and so that is basically the goal of that was to increase engagement with my office, to facilitate transparency from my office to student body, also just to make sure that we had something during the summer when we didn't have meetings that could really communicate what was going on through my office. So that's that. I've asked you to please like it and invite your friends to that page. And because I won't regularly be posting on the regular Associated Students of ASUCR page. I will be sometime for the most important things, but I didn't want to inundate that page, so I just decided to create that separate one. And Ravine was very kind to help me with the graphics of that, so thank you, Ravine. It has 284 likes thus far for the sake of transparency, but hopefully more later. So the next theme, of course, was the United States Student Association Congress during the summer. We took 11 ASUCR delegates to that Congress, which is almost 3 times as many as last year and as it's been in the past. So we were very proud about that. On top of that, out of the 11 delegates, 5 of those delegates received positions on the board of directors, were elected to positions on the board of directors. These are David Santillan, who was elected as Grassroots Legislative Liaison, a voting member of the Board of Directors. Alexander Wilson, who was elected as Minority Serving Institution Caucus Chair, a voting member as well. Arturo Gomez, who was elected as National People of Color Student Coalition Caucus Vice Chair, non-voting member. Brianna Ross, who was elected the National Women's Student Coalition Vice Chair as a non-voting member. And leader during the UCSA Congress, elected as the University of California Student Association Liaison as a voting member. And Priyanka Sharma, who was elected People of Middle Eastern and Southeast Asian Descent Caucus Vice Chair, non-voting member. As you can see, that I didn't list it on here, but that's also almost twice as many as we had in the past year, and definitely in previous years before that. So we're very proud about that as well. I also, for transparency's sake, I did do a press release endorsing Nicole Gonzalez for the Vice Presidency of the United States Student Association. So you can read that press release on Facebook. The campaigns that came out of USSA Congress were a campaign against sexual violence and sexual assault. There are two separate campaigns that came out of that, as well as some other administrative resolutions that were passed by Congress as well. And if you want information on those, because they were on a variety of issues, you can contact me over here. We also have the University of California Student Association. And so, as you can see, we took 47 delegates to that, despite it being in Oakland, California. So we are proud to be able to take the same amount of delegates as we usually take, despite this conference being in the north, which obviously makes costs significantly higher than regularly when it's been in the south the past 2 years. Also, all three of the UCR representatives, which are myself, Brianna, and David, who sit on the UCSA Board of Directors, have officer positions on the Board of Directors. So I am the undergrad committee chair, which basically is the chair of the whole undergraduate committee of UCSA. The undergraduate committee is where we revise campaigns and set specific plans of actions for the campaigns that we vote for at Congress. Brianna, David Zampian, he was elected as Secretary of Finance Officer, which is essentially the third position down for the Board of Directors as well. And Brianna Ross, as I mentioned earlier, she was elected as a liaison to the USSA. The undergraduate campaigns that came out of UCSA Congress were Ignite, which is a campaign to end the school to prison pipeline and institute a UC diversity pipeline, which I and other individuals founded 2 years ago. And basically what happened to Ignite was it was reaffirmed and also revised. We wanted to make sure that we made it a more encompassing campaign in terms of not only addressing mass incarceration, but addressing mass criminalization and militarization as well, and also including aspects of police brutality and whatnot. And then the second campaign was You Consent, which is a campaign against sexual violence. And so in line with that is basically just educating students on what consent is, passing the SB 967, which instituted affirmative consent, and that was a success. It passed, so we were really happy about that. And along with that, I've been sitting on the sexual assault consultation group for UCR since the school year started, working on the It's On Us campaign, just to make sure that we have somebody from UCSA and the ASUCR there, and also Brianna Ross has been involved with that as well. Other than that, we also had budget adjustments through the Executive Cabinet Summer Powers. So although we already passed all of these, I wanted to make sure I still mention them so that the public is aware of what the budget adjustments I made to my budget were. So as you can saw, I created a USSA Board of Directors travel account for $5,000. I increased the UCSA Board of Directors travel by $800, but I withdrew. I was going to withdraw that component of it before you all voted on it, but it's already been approved. So I'll work with Lori and Teresa and then to see how that would be moving forward, because I don't feel like I need that anymore. So that's that. The increase in the stipend payroll to make the adjustments, those are void regardless of you all approving the minutes, and that's because that process, any stipend changes would have had to go through LRC and finance. So that section is void. I wanted to list it on there because that's the original proposal and I wanted everybody to have that available. But just know that it's void. And then the increases for SOC and SLC, because this year all the conferences are going to be in the north, or they have been in the north and they're going to be in the north. In the past, it's usually been 2 in the south and 1 in the north, or at least 1 in the south on the southern campuses. So as you can imagine, that substantially drives up costs because, for example, school buses won't go all the way up to Merced or Oakland. So I have to get charter buses, which obviously costs a lot more money. The fact that we have to take buses so far increase costs. So all these things that bring up costs, but I wanted to make sure that we still had enough student representation there despite this, and that's what those increases are for. So next up, I attended the Berkeley UCSA Board of Directors meeting. I did voter registration trainings. We had one on the 27th of September for ASUCR staff in Calvert. Thank you to those of you that actually showed up. We also had one on October 2nd for all UCR students. And we had some new volunteers as well. Other than that, as you all know, we've been doing voter registration. And so we've been doing a lot of tactics like tabling. Fortunately, with housing, we were finally able to come up with an arrangement for them to let us door knock in the residence halls. That's been really helpful these past few days, and we're continuing it right now. My voter reg team is actually at Lothian right now doing that, so very thankful for that. Right now, so just for you all to know, right now we're at approximately 750 students registered to vote. That's not really where I wanted to be at, but this has turned out to be kind of a dismal year for participation. At the Board of Directors meeting, I saw that a lot of other schools are really having a huge problem getting students registered to vote, and that's because not only is it a midterm election to which people already generally don't turn out, but there's not really anything that a lot of students feel like directly affects them. And the elections there aren't really being as competitive. For example, like Governor Brown isn't really like campaigning and whatnot. So it's just a very dismal kind of election season. So we're still glad to be able to get 750 despite that, and we're going to continue until the registration deadline, which is on the 20th. So with voter registration, I wanted to take a second and really emphasize what I hope will be more participation from Senate and also just any members on this horseshoe right now. So I personally wanted to thank Fabian, Summer, Jason, Carlton, Michael, Fernando, Nafi, Jackie, Reem, Allie, Stephanie, Ravine, Herman, and Devin for participating in voter registration or talking to me if there's anything that doesn't allow you to participate. Unfortunately, the members that I did not name on this horseshoe have not participated in voter registration. And so what I would like to do is I want to make a motion to make voter registration a mandatory event for Senate. I think that it's critically important for all senators to contribute to registering students to vote. During election season, we spent countless hours out there getting students to vote for us. And I can tell you that a lot of the propositions that are on the ballot really matter to students indirectly per se, maybe, but they definitely do matter. And the elections are more important than the elections that we have for ourselves. So there's no reason for us as elected officials to not be contributing to that effort. With that said, I move to make voter registration a mandatory event. And of course, it'll be up to my discretion if you've already participated to have met that requirement already. So at this point, I move to make a motion to make voter registration a mandatory event, and I'll be giving you more information in regards to how exactly that stands out later.
Motion by Vice President of External Affairs Abraham Galvan and seconded by President Dr. Karim. All those in favor of making participating voter registration a mandatory event? All those opposed? And abstain? We're going to have a re-vote on that. Okay, all those in favor? All those opposed? And abstain? Okay. At 12:13, this motion passes.
So look out for further details from me in regards to that. I also, of course, attended the October UCSA Board of Directors meeting, and now, finally, I get to the new bylaw that I'm proposing. So, during the summer, I realized that the way that the office was set up was not structured properly in order for the office to really run as efficiently and smoothly as I feel like it needs to. And I sent you all the old bylaw as well as the new bylaw that I'm proposing. If you open the old bylaw, you can tell that the bylaw, the formatting is completely off. So it has like arrows and diamonds, like little stuff. Like you can't cite that, right? And it's completely aside from any other bylaws in the way that they're structured. So I definitely wanted to fix that, and I wanted to also make sure that things that were on that bylaw were easy to read and understand for the general public as well as you all. I wanted to make sure that the structure of the office made sense. I wanted to make sure that the bylaw allowed for more accountability for the officers within the external affairs. I wanted to make sure that it really made the bylaw and the components it asked of us really practical. So that's why I basically just threw out the old one and I'm proposing a new one. Well, I haven't thrown it out yet. Hopefully you all will throw it out when you accept my new bylaw. But I wrote a new bylaw. It borrows substantially from the old bylaw, but it does make substantial differences. So if you have yet to read that bylaw, I really strongly encourage you to read the bylaw, compare and contrast it with the old one. And if you have any questions or concerns about that bylaw, talk to me. I think they're pretty straightforward, and I think they make a lot of sense for really how the office needs to be structured. Of course, you might disagree. In that case, talk to me, and we'll have plenty of time to review this bylaw before you all approve it, hopefully next week. So I won't waste everybody's time going to the new bylaw because I know some of y'all want to get out of here on time early and stuff like that. But I will say that if any member of the public wants access to this bylaw, I'll be posting it on my Facebook page. That's all I'm going to do. But it'll be there if you want to look at it and see what I'm proposing, along with my report. I'll be posting that on my Facebook page as well. And I think I can do the upcoming roundtable announcements. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Vice President Abraham Galvan, for the very, very thorough report. Okay, we will now move on to subsection 3 personnel. Oh, sorry. Senator Kolecki.
Point of clarification.
Yes.
Also another point of clarification. Do I press this in order to state it?
Yes.
Okay, so I have a few questions for, is this working? Make sure it's right. Just press forward. This one's on the agenda. Okay. Well, I have a few questions for Abraham. You said that you're creating a Facebook page, and that's a great idea, but I was just wondering if you're going to use Ventpool when it's up and running, if all the committees are actually going to use Ventpool in order to broadcast when they're having their meetings, because I know it's kind of like a common argument that meetings haven't been made aware of because, oh, they haven't been on Facebook or the Facebook update wasn't adequate. I don't know. And also, yes, with voter registration, I was against making it mandatory, but I'll get over it. I think it is a good idea. However, I know my year, my second year, they had a competition called the Bounty Project, where they involved clubs in order to promote voting, voter registration. So what they did is they contacted all the clubs and they said you can win $1,000 of ASUCR funds if you get the most to register to vote. I thought it was a very effective way because there was a motivation to get people to register, and I think it's more effective than just having 16 members on Senate register people to vote. Thank you.
Vice President Abraham Galvan.
Great, thank you. So in response to your first question of whether I'll be using Ventpool or not, I've yet to really look into what the Ventpool interface. So maybe once I do, I can definitely post events on there and whatnot. But that's why I haven't done so yet, because I'm not really too familiar with it, just to be honest. And in regards to your second point about voter registration, like I said, this report was not exhaustive, so I actually did have a competition that I promoted for organizations. However, in my office, I have a $500 budget for an electoral action training and a $600 budget for any vote materials. So that essentially reduces the amount of money that I have for vote kind of to nothing. And so that's why, unfortunately, I wasn't able to make the I guess I wasn't able to make the prize big enough that any organizations really were enticed to participate. It was supposed to be a $250 grant for the organization for a non-Greek and a $250 for Greek organization that registered the most students to vote. Fortunately, we didn't really see much participation or kind of acceptance of that grant, and it's understandable because the money is not considerable. But unfortunately, that's the only money that I really had to offer to make it work. So yes, in the future, I would recommend the Vice President of External Affairs to get that. And perhaps this year, unfortunately, the budget has been problematic because the last budget that was presented was, I think, by no means really thoughtful in the way that it would work for this year. So hopefully this year, at the end of the year, I'll propose a budget that I feel is really thoughtful and that the next Vice President of External Affairs can really work with. And that problem will be avoided. But for the meantime, I did try, it just didn't work out. Things happen. So, and in response to the 16 senators, I think maybe not to all of you, it's not clear as to why I decided to motion to make this mandatory. I know for a fact that over, I think, 6,000 students voted in the last election, and the reason why that happened was because every single member of this horseshoe and more were out there every single day, every spare minute that they had from class, running around telling people, vote right now, vote right now, vote right now, right? I know for a fact that happened. So I know that you all are capable of doing that work, and beside the fact that I know that you are capable of doing that work, I see no reason why, if you can devote hours upon hours upon hours upon hours to getting yourself elected, you are not able to devote 1 hour to register students on UCR's campus to vote in the general elections. I see no reason for that, and that's exactly why I motioned to make it mandatory. It's actually shameful that I have to motion to make that mandatory. I'm sorry, but it's actually shameful that that has to happen. There's no reason why I should be coming up here and saying only this list of people participated. There's no reason for that. You're telling me that you have not even 30 minutes to spare. You're telling me that you don't even have a second to send me an email and tell me why you can't participate. There's actually people in that list that sent me an email and told me I can't participate because of this reason. And I said, you know what? Okay, I understand. Not all of us are able to make it work all the time. But you can at least tell me why you're not participating. So that's why I did that. And I'm glad that the rest of Senate decided that they wanted to pass that motion, because I think it goes very well in line with all the campaign promises that we made, where we were going to empower students, where we were going to represent students, right? We can't do that if we're not participating in the electoral process. And I tell you that it's definitely unfair for any individual to do that when, for example, I myself, I can't vote. I don't have the luxury of being able to go vote, but I know that a way that I can exercise my power is by registering 750 students to vote. So that's why I did that.
Senator Kalecki.
Point of clarification. I would just like to state that it wasn't that I was fully against the fact that I don't want people to be registered to vote, but I think that there's a better strategy to go about it, and I'd be willing to help you with that strategy. Thank you.
Okay, that will be the last comment. We will now move on with the agenda, subsection 3, personnel director Ashley Morano.
This update is for the 16 senators sitting around me. There are specific on-campus and in-office committees that require senators to sit on them. All of you have received an email from me for the past month telling you of all these different committees that still require senators to be sitting on them. So right now I'm going to take the time to say the list of those committees that still require senators and how many senators I need for them. The first one is the Student Housing Advisory Board. This one requires 2 more senators to sit on this one. The second is the ASUCR elections. This requires 2 more senators. And then the final one is the ASUCR Finance Committee, and that requires 1 more senator. So if any of these committees are of interest to you, I'd really appreciate getting an email from you. Right now we have 12 out of our 16 senators sitting on more committees than that is required of them in their bylaws. And so I'm very thankful for that, but there is still 5 more positions that need senators. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much, Ashley. Moving on, subsection 4, we have our Marketing and Promotions Director, Lee Thought. Can you get over 3 minutes?
Thank you. We're just going to be going over a couple of the initiatives we worked on over the summer. I want to start with the Food Truck Festival. So as Fernando said, we have actually a really high number of volunteers that have already applied, but we're still accepting more volunteers. If you'd like to be a part of that, please send me an email at asucr@ucr.edu. You will be getting a t-shirt and a volunteer badge. In addition, the trainings, there will be 3 trainings. You'll need to attend one of them, and those are all going to be next week. The information will be emailed to all the volunteers, as well as put on the Facebook page. Next, I am rewriting my bylaws currently, and I have new committee positions based on things that I've learned from last year in this position and how I'd like to take this office moving forward. So we've actually reduced the number of committee positions, but the reason for that is not to bar anyone from becoming involved, but instead I found that last year giving people too specific of a responsibility would compartmentalize what they do in the office, and instead I'd like all my committee members to be really involved in the office, take on some extra responsibilities, and be engaged even outside of just marketing. So due to that, my office is going to consist of the marketing director, the vice chair, that sits right under me, and then our committee is going to have a campus event coordinator, where this person will be primarily in charge of this Wednesday tabling, as well as facilitating, getting everything together for any events that ASUCR throws. The position that carried over from last year is the promotions and decorations coordinator. They're in charge of kind of getting all the promotions ordered, depending on what events we have going on, as well as help set up our tabling booths or setting up for events. In addition, right now we have a social media coordinator. I'm currently debating, I might take 2 social media coordinators, given kind of the depth of the responsibilities I'd like to give this year. I'm still debating on that, and we also have a historian position that is still looking to be filled. This is going to be a position that does receive a stipend, and they will be in charge of doing photography for almost all of our ASUCR events, including covering Senate meetings to some extent, as well as tabling, festivals that we put on, etc. The interviews I have are going on right now, and interviews will be on Friday, so my committee will be actually the appointments will be made over the weekend and brought up in the next Senate meeting for final approval. Next, the Wednesday tabling. I actually have a sheet right here that, as we spoke over the summer and at the retreat, I'll start passing it down this way. This is a sign up for Wednesday tabling for the next 4 weeks, and I'd like senators to sign up. The spots are going to be from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m., and that also includes a 15-minute before and after period for setting up and breaking down, as my campus event organizer can't do that on themselves. So I really appreciate if you could come out to mostly all the times you can make it. Once again, this year, tabling is going to be done every week. Even if, perhaps if we don't have anything to kind of push the student body or anything to market, I'd still like ASUCR to have a presence along with our other organizations during Nooners, talk to students, engage with them, get yourselves known. I know transparency is something we're really trying for, and I'd like all of your faces to be recognizable to the student body. In addition, I had the pleasure of attending UCSA this summer, so thank you to Abe for letting me attend. It was really amazing. It was a great experience. I encourage everyone that hasn't signed up to go. Okay. But at UCSA, I did cover photography and videography, and right now we're in the process of making the video. The reason we held off on it is Senator Colette King has actually presented a great idea. She's found someone that can do whiteboard illustrations along with our narration for the video. So we're trying to set up a meeting with that next week, and hopefully we can make some really cool videos with the help of this artist that she's found for us. Next, if you've all seen, I'm trying to start ASUCR 101 this year. What this is going to be is a series of FAQ questions that students generally have about the office, but we're translating all these questions into short, informative videos. So we've already started one on the organizational structure of ASUCR, but I look forward to the next coming weeks, now that everyone's back, to start recording a lot more in the office and get these videos posted on our YouTube channel. That's time. I would like a motion.
Second?
Second that motion.
All right, seconded by Senator
So we have orientation tabling, along with Devin and a lot of the ECAT members. I too was helping out with orientation tabling. It was a great experience. A lot of first years were very interested in the office, so I can only hope to continue to keep them in the loop, continue to email them, even those that might have not applied or might have not gotten a position within the office. I hope we can tap into them as resources and keep them engaged as they've already expressed an interest for ASUCR. Next is our gear, along with the help of President Nafi Karim, Iris, and other ECAT members. We created a hoodie design for the class of 2018 that I showed all of you last week, and I'm happy to say that those have been ordered, and I look forward to helping pass them out because I think they're pretty cool, and I think the first years will love that. Next is the new Highlander ad. I'm trying to streamline the system and also get it so that more clubs know about our Highlander advertising. I know sometimes there's some confusion. A lot of people go to the Highlander wondering for free ad space. That is offered through ASUCR. So I'm printing out new flyers. I have a design for that. In addition, our generic ad and digital club apps have been updating, and we're going to use any remaining space this year that aren't used by clubs to advertise ASUCR initiatives, such as, for example, voter registration. Leading into that voter registration, I helped create some graphics for Get Out the Vote, and I'm trying to help registering as well. Wednesday tabling was once again an excellent time for registering, and once the October 20th deadline passes, some of the tabling initiatives are going to include informing the student body about different initiatives being put on the ballot and how they can potentially affect the student body. Next, for external affairs, I met with Brianna Ross, and we'll be creating some graphics and helping out at the police brutality protest next Wednesday. That's going to be at noon in the Bell Tower. So if you're available, you should definitely make it out to that. It's going to be quite an event. Next, I've been working with Devin to get athletics involved on our campus. We had a meeting, we had an ECAT meeting where athletics was present a couple weeks ago, and they've expressed interest in kind of opening up more to the student body. So some of the things we discussed was being more involved at the tailgates they posted. They started last year, and I'd really like to see this year an ASUCR tent there. Maybe we can develop some hot dogs, pass them out, get KUCR involved. That's something we're working on. In addition, for the food truck festival, I have a meeting with the ASPB director. We're going to be getting about 20 minutes from their reservation during the food truck festival at the Bell Tower, and hopefully athletics can bring out some of the athletes, bring out the cheer squad and the basketball players, and we can engage the student body through that. In addition, another proposed idea was having the two intramural finalists play a short game during one of the UCR games, during perhaps halftime, and engage the IM crowd through that. Next, this is for the future, some of the things that I have planned currently include picnic blanket checkout system. So this is something I've been asking around campus, and people seem to like this. Just as the hub checks out laptop chargers and phone chargers, I'd also like to pass out picnic blankets through ASUCR that students can check out. I'm in the process of working on that, but I think students would like another place to sit, especially around noon when the hub gets really busy and they're sitting on the Pierce lawn. A lot of students express that that might be nice to have. So, and the last thing is I also help make the applications for marketing, elections, UCR, general committees, and in-office committees. We're continuing with President Nafi's initiative to move all of our documents online and make them more easily accessible to the student body. Thank you.
Thank you for the reports. Being thought. Okay, moving on. Subsection. President Cross reports. Moving on with subsection 5, we have Vice President of Finance, Irish Shan. Irish Shan, you have the floor for 3 minutes.
Hi everyone. So I have my first finance meeting this Monday, and my finance meetings will be this quarter will be every Monday from 2:30 to 4:30. I have appointed my officers. They are Shafi Kareem for my vice chair and Jasmine Bo for my secretary. So I would like to motion to approve my officers.
There has been a motion to approve personnel for officers. Considering final approval of personnel, this is a closed ballot. So if there is...
Request for information.
Can you elaborate on what the process was to figure out who would purchase those positions?
Yeah, I sent out, I made a Google form and I sent it, and it was sent out through a school-wide mass email. And then whoever filled out their application, I picked out the applicants who I wanted to interview based on what they wrote in their application and their GPA, and then I conducted interviews.
Okay, great, thank you. We will be passing out ballots for the closed ballot system. All final personnel considerations must be made under a closed ballot. Simply, you do not need to write your name. Simply just write yes, no, or abstain. Personnel matters. Senator Jackson-Cody.
Question, so why are these ballots closed for discussion?
All final personnel considerations are made under closed ballot. This is due to avoiding any conflict of interest, or possibly if the person is present in the room to avoid. It's essentially for procedural matters. All personnel is done under closed ballot.
Just for point of clarification, that's something that's in our constitution, and not in the resolution.
Okay, thank you. Technical list. President Pro Tem Park. Yes, sure. So as the ballots will be handed out, you will receive one. When we make the motion, you will simply write yes, no, or abstain. The Senate Secretary will collect them simply. As soon as you finish voting, just hold your piece of paper up. And our Senate Secretary will come around and collect them. After the vote is called, myself and the Senate Secretary will step outside to count the ballots and we'll come back in to announce. It will simply be a matter of pass or Senator.
What differentiates Vice President Finance appointments from Vice President External Affairs? Why did you take secret ballot from those places?
That one was a personnel matter considering that was pending bylaw updates. This is not the final. It was not the final approval process for personnel. So that one can simply be made because the changes could be different as to what you heard now. That was simply an approval to hear the bylaw updates, not necessarily to approve the personnel. That's why it was not personnel.
Point of clarification. It's actually in our bylaws that only personnel appointed by the Office of the Vice President of External Affairs that needs to be approved by Senate. The rest of the bylaws, as it currently stands, are automatically appointed by their officers. So it does not need Senate confirmation in this matter.
Senator Jack, you go.
So then what is this vote for? Is it
Yeah, so I'm just clarifying that this vote is not actually needed.
Could you clarify?
So, in terms of personnel under the Office of External Affairs, there needs to be a vote to confirm the appointments. In terms of appointments under any other office, Campus Internal Affairs, Executive Vice President, the Office of the President, and the Office of VP of Finance, the appointments under those offices do not need Senate confirmation as the bylaws currently stand.
Outreach Director Jessica Kiedis and Senator.
So, to my understanding, does that mean that the personnel director, or is that when you say personnel?
Personnel, as in any officers under those office, any appointments under those office, do not need Senate approval.
Senator.
I motion to take this until next week, there seems to be a lot of confusion, and I want to personally review the bylaws explicitly to make sure I'm comfortable making that sort of decision.
I object to consideration of that motion, mainly because I think if you don't need more information on the individuals, just request for the information or anything like that, just because finance committee already started meeting and the clubs are waiting to get through their applications, which are very important to those clubs. I don't think them clubs necessarily just wait on us like because we have just there or whatnot. And also because there's, for example, my bylaw that needs to be passed in finance. The officers under my office have already not been getting paid during this time. I'd rather not tell them that they have to wait another like 2 weeks in order for that to happen. So under those grounds, I object to consideration of that motion.
Okay, are there any other motions on the floor at this time?
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Request for information. I believe Ashley said that there is still an open position for a senator on finance committee. I'm not exactly well versed with how many members are going to be on that committee for it to be running actively. So is it even active?
Yes, it's done this quarter.
And okay, and then if these two individuals were not to be appointed, would it still be one or no? These two individuals that were going for.
I just need one more second.
No, what's the forum?
Point of clarification. My point is, as the bylaws currently stand, these individuals are appointed already. So, in the future, for future years, if we want to require Senate approval and Senate confirmation, then we should update the bylaws. But as things stand for this year, the appointments are already final and in effect.
Senator Blaine.
Why are we voting? If it's an appointment without our approval, why are we voting?
That's what I am clarifying, that we don't need to take this vote.
Okay.
And we can continue.
So neither of those motions need to be voted.
I would draw that motion.
As the bylaws currently stand, and we will have the specific bylaw extracted for the purpose of the minutes to be able to refer to. Considering the motion has been withdrawn, Senator Key Brown, do you withdraw your motion? Oh, sorry. And I was directing this for you.
Point of clarification, are we able to have an interim until there is, well, now that all motions are taken back, does that mean that it doesn't need a, so I understand that they're already appointed, can those two individuals who were appointed be appointed as interim until Senate has their full understanding of who is appointed and how and why the process? So as a point, I mean, as instead of waiting and having those individuals already in office and having to result to the organizations and any individual who has problems with their anything that has to do with finance, basically, can we have those individuals as interim until Senate?
Okay, so point of clarification. These individuals are not interim. They are already serving as the appointed individuals by the powers granted to the elected officials as in the executive cabinet to make those appointments. So as of right now, as things stand, these appointments are final and standing. So they do not need to go through any further processes. As for the appointments under the Office of External Affairs, those bylaws do dictate that the appointments need Senate confirmation.
All right, Senator Herman Sega and then Senator Key Brown.
Yeah, so I just pulled up our bylaws, and on section 3 of chapter 4, letter B, it explicitly states that the vice chair of the committee, this is finance committee, the vice chair of the committee shall be appointed by the VP of Finance and approved by the Senate. And letter C also once again says that the finance secretary must be appointed by the VP of Finance and approved by the Senate. So I wish to keep my motion of tabling these appointments until next week.
In that case, I would
section?
Yeah, so
What's
these
more
are-
for record before you get the minutes?
Yeah, so this is the bylaws. It is chapter 5, section 3, and it's letters B and C.
Okay, yeah, let me pull it up.
Well, is there a possible point of clarification?
I'll be sure, just repeat this.
So I had never gotten my question answered as opposed to, you know, instead of stopping the entire process of not allowing those representatives to be taking, you know, the initiative of still going through finance and allowing everything that has been presented to finance to be on hold, is it possible to have them as interim until approved by the Senate?
It would have to be, as a matter of referring to your bylaws, the personnel would either state to be appointed by you or to be approved by the Senate. If it does need to be approved by the Senate, you they will operate as interim until they are approved, but it's already in process of understanding.
So they were already in process before approved by the Senate?
As in, all positions are technically not, if your bylaws state that they need to have approval by Senate, they are not official until confirmed. It is up to your discretion if you want them to begin duties, but of course, if there is not approval, then you will have to seek recourse.
So my question, as more clear, is are they able to continue with the duties as interim as opposed to waiting on any of their duties to be done while waiting for the approval session?
Yeah, point of clarification. My apologies. I wasn't under the assumption that finance also were under the same clause, but I think when the bylaws were updated along with the VP of Externals, this does require Senate confirmation, but for the Office of Campus Internal Affairs and the other 3 executive offices, it does not. So I would actually request that these confirmation ballots do go forward.
Okay. Senator Senga and Senator Jack.
Yeah, so my understanding of meeting quorum is that you must have 1 member over half. That's what is stated in my understanding of the bylaws. I can't cite it specifically now, but need be later I can. So the finance committee, according to our bylaws, consists of 7 senators. So that would be 4 to be quorum. We are currently voting on 2 individuals. So if those 2 individuals are not in finance committee, my understanding of our bylaws means that finance committee can still operate without those 2 individuals. And even if that senator was not on that committee by Monday when the committee's meeting, then in theory should still be able to work as a committee. In my understanding. Sorry.
Senator Jack, you go.
Because these 2 people need approval, I would like to have us have a discussion every week on these 2 because I have worked in the past with 1 person I do not think they are capable. And so I would possibly do this toward us to discuss an option. Yeah.
Vice President of External Affairs, Abraham Galvan.
If there needs to be a discussion, please open a discussion and have, I don't know if we're allowed to move to closed session or whatnot, but please have a discussion because we can't have everything on hold while you all deliberate and while we have more discussions and whatnot. Things just don't work that way. We can't like place everything on hold in that regard. So if you can please, like if you really want to have a discussion on like the merit or the process or anything like that, I would really highly encourage Senate to open that discussion right now because it's not about the forum that's an issue. It's about their ability to function as vice chair and secretaries. And so obviously you can't, it doesn't matter if you have enough members for the committee. The functions that the committee needs to take place can't be fulfilled because you don't have those roles yet outlined, and the committee cannot function without that. So we need to have a conversation. Please have a conversation right now so that you don't put everybody else on hold because even though Senate stipends have gone through, and like you're getting your signatures and you're gonna be approved, there's other people that are waiting for their stipends that have been doing work that can't necessarily just wait. And there's also other functions, like for example, club allocations and whatnot, that can't just wait because we want to or we need to. So please consider that.
Senator Keene Brown, Personnel Director Ashley Verano, Outreach Director Jessica Urquidez, VP of Finance Irish Shank, and Senator Delaney Koenig, and Senator Hermanson.
Point of information. Are these two appointments critical to the function? I understand there was a meeting on Monday already. Did that stop any board from getting the funding for any services that they needed because of those appointments?
I don't understand.
Did the meeting serve its purpose? Were boards who were present able to get their funding? Because of these two appointments, is that delaying any funding or does it delay any function of the committee? Secondly, we don't want to move hastily. We need to be sure that we're making the right decision. So if it matters, we were elected to make the right decision, not a hasty decision. So right now there seems to be a consensus that this is hasty and it needs to be reviewed. And I do support the motion to table by Senator Hermanson.
Personnel Director Ashley Verano, VP. Irish Director Jessica Urquidez.
Just because I'm very concerned about the organizations that are, as well as other things that are going through finance, I do propose open discussion now. I don't want a motion because I do feel it's important to have a closed session. But I do feel it's very important to discuss these matters at hand. But like I said, I feel it is very important to continue to have the finance hearing. That's why I still don't understand if those two appointed individuals are able to continue to function as interims and continue the same duties that they've had, and just go through the same process until approved by Senate.
Vice President of Finance Irish Shank.
Okay, this is for if you're worried about like the team members and their merit or their qualification.
My question is their absence preventing the boards from getting the services that they are?
Oh yeah, I think that's secretary to say my agenda. And sorry for Jackie, I would like to know who, like if that's possible, who it is.
In closed session.
Okay.
Yes.
But I would just like y'all to know that if you guys are worried about their merit or their qualification, I spent over a week to do interviews, and I interviewed over like 30 people, and they were very specific, and it was all like the same questions.
Senator Delaney Koenig.
So I think what people are concerned about here is that if it's us choosing, we don't really have a choice right now. And so I think that it would be a great idea to pursue the idea of an interim so that these orgs wouldn't lose their funding. But at the same time, I agree that a hasty decision. Yes, the orgs need funding, but is it worth the sacrifice of appointing people that might not be the most apt for the position? No. And so I think that we need to be presented with those people that you interview, because I don't doubt that you did a fantastic job interviewing. I think that if we could maybe get maybe 3 or 4 of those candidates just so that it would be more of a vote, that would be fantastic.
Senator Hermanson.
Yeah, so I'm not necessarily concerned with these individuals personally or individually or anything like that. I'm just a little more concerned that the bylaws aren't being followed. You know, I'm a member of the Senate. Yes, I read the bylaws various times, but even to me, I was like, wait a second, this doesn't seem like the right process. So I feel that we are making a little hasty decision. I would be more than happy to change my motion to say that let them serve as until we appoint them, if that's possible. But even with that being said, according to quorum, I believe Finance Committee can be functional without them being present. However, the specific jobs, I understand. But then again, also, in terms of clubs, I do believe it's a majority like a reimbursement system also. So, or is it, or the call is more approving the.
I move to call a question. I move to call a question.
Can you explain? Yeah. Can you explain the question?
Yeah, I move to call the question because at this point, I think we've heard the rationale for why you shouldn't wait on this decision, and we've heard the rationale for why you should wait. I feel like we're going in circles at this point, so I move to call the question so that we can consider the motions in the order of precedence and then just move forward with the
Point of inquiry. Lori, if you can clarify, if they do serve as on an interim basis, what would happen with the individuals that are serving, currently serving in terms of their stipends? Because I know that the stipends do starting tomorrow, so what would be the effect on those issues?
Never heard of an interim position. Basically, the way that it was started several years ago is for reasons of transparency, all interns and committee members were approved by the Senate. It is in the internal bylaw, the internal vice president bylaw, it's in the external, it's in the finance. So my question is, if she's already interviewed people that or students that she wants on her committee, the Senate should just vote on it, and if somebody feels they're not qualified, then they can vote against it. That's just a democratic process. I don't understand what why you're waiting. If she's proposing that the Senate vote on her committee members, let the Senate vote, and then that decision will be made. And like I said, it is in the internal vice president bylaw and the external and the finance. But they've done it for all committee appointments and all interns across the board for the last several years, just for the purpose of transparency, and also, so that things are done behind the scenes, that nobody knows about you having a friend come in and just giving them positions without considering other people. And so that's just been a consideration that Senate has done over the years, and it is efficient for 3 out of the 5 positions.
Right. So at this time, we will consider, and I will open the floor to motions. All previous motions will be withdrawn with consideration when in the ensuing confusion, motions will be withdrawn. So the recording of the minutes for those who have made a previous motion, if they can simply restate it, so that is on the record. So at this time, I will open the floor for motions.
I move to approve the appointments by Vice President of Finance, Iris Jean.
Are there any other motions on the floor at this time? Senator Colette.
So this motion would allow us to vote, right?
Yes, by closed out. Senator Colette.
Point of inquiry. So are we not allowed to know why Senator Jackie Jacoby is against who Iris has chosen? Not that we don't trust Iris's judgment, but sometimes there are different perspectives on other individuals.
Senator Colette, if you wish to move for closed session so that we will be able to have that conversation, you are fully within your rights to do so.
Then I move to do so.
Could you please state?
I motion for a closed session. Is that what it is? Closed session?
Yes. That's the correct motion. Are there any other motions on the floor? Okay. We will now take these motions in order of precedence. And so the motion for, in this case, it would be the motions in the order which they were received. First, we have Abraham Galvan's motion to approve the personnel committees. Do we have a second? Seconded by Senator Fabian Escobedo. Okay. Since it has been seconded, we will now proceed with this motion before we continue with the next one, as this will now have to be approved by closed ballot. Yes, Senator.
If we go into closed session, we'll be on the motion to talk about the closed session.
It was essentially the motions were considered in the order in which they were received. If you still wish to have that closed session, you may simply vote no, and we can move forward with the closed session.
Point of information. Is it possible to take the motions by precedence rather than having it by...
They are equal precedence, so I had to consider them in the order which they were received. So at this time...
Point of information.
Unfortunately, at this time, I cannot take any more points of clarification. We just need to, we need to move forward with the vote, please. So For everyone who has a ballot in front of them, if you may simply vote yes, no, or abstain. And this is the approval of Finance Committee members, of our VP of Finance, Ira Schenk. As soon as you have finished writing down yes, no, or abstain, giving your name off of it, please hold your hand up so that the Senate Secretary has your consent.
Point of information. So are individuals voting based on one or both together?
They're together. They are not separate. It is changed into it. At this time, we will step outside and be able to count ballots. Okay. With a vote of 6-10-0, this does not pass. We will now proceed to consideration of the second motion made by Senator Colette King to move into a closed session following Senate meeting.
I call for a division.
Division of the question?
I call for a division of the question.
Could you please stop?
Essentially means to vote on each individual separately.
Senator.
Once again, according to the bylaws, I don't believe we're allowed to go on the same thing within 24 hours.
It's actually not the same thing, that's why it's a division.
But wouldn't that be, my understanding would be that it is technically the same thing. We're voting for it, but
Procedurally, no. It is technically it is a different motion that you're making. You are not. It is indifferent in substance in terms of what can be approved or disapproved. It's not the same motion being. While it may refer to the same content or the same topic at hand, it is not. It is not the same motion being made. So we have a motion for division of the question. We will first consider Senator Colette King's motion for a closed session. Do I have a second? Seconded by Outreach Director Jessica Arquidez. Okay. All those in favor? All those opposed? And abstaining. All right. 11-3-2. This motion passes. We will move into a closed session following public roundtable and announcements. Okay. Vice President of Finance Ira Schenk, would you like to continue with your update?
Okay, well, during our first finance meeting, we have passed budgets for 5 student organizations and table 1. So they are as follows. we have allocated $908 to our kids, $1,098 to Habitat for Humanity, $750 to Secret Swords and Sorcery Society, $2,354 for Chinese Student Association, and $750 for Pacific Island Kids. And the table was for American Red Cross, and they were asking for $800.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Okay, we will now move on with our agenda, section I.
Oh, sorry. A motion to approve.
Motion to approve budget allocations. Do I have a second?
Second that motion.
Seconded by Senator Priscilla Perret. All those in favor? All those opposed? And abstain. All right, by motion of 16-0, this motion passes. What is there? All right, we will now move on with our agenda in section I. This is a presentation that I have prepared for you all. This was not part of my update, mostly because it's kind of concerned a little bit of what I've been doing over the summer, but this needs a little bit more time to flesh out. So I want to be able to go through it, finalize with you all step by step. Just to give a little preface, this is done to, this system that I talked about during our ASUCR retreat was done with the explicit intention of correcting a fundamental flaw that previous Senates had had, which is that projects that senators would undertake would essentially hit 100 to 0 at the end of the year. And new senators would come in with new ideas, and while that is excellent, and of course originality is encouraged, no foundation would be built upon for these projects to continue. Everything would restart from square one. This system has been created to allow for turnover, for continuity, for a following Senate to be able to take up the actions and accomplishments of the previous Senate. So that way, long-term progress can be sustained and achieved. So I'll now go with you all to the new ASUCR Drive. This is actually your own separate email address that you will log into. The Associated Students, ucr@gmail.com. I will not give out the password publicly, so just wait until after the meeting proceeded. Once you log in, all you simply have to do is go to the drive. Loaded there, you will find the ASUCR Drive. This is something you can click on. You can click on the Senate. And within these folders is all of your own individual folders containing for all your projects. So we will click on a random senator. Let's start with Carlton Newman, exemplary senator for PCO. The 4 items that you all have shared within your own folders. One is the parliamentary procedure doc that was given to you all at the previous meeting. If you ever need to refer to it, should you ever lose your hard copy, this is something you're all able to refer to in a quick cheat sheet of parliamentary motions and procedures. So make sure everybody is all caught up on Robert's Rules of Order. Following that, we have I'll start from the top, on form links. There are 2 links that you will go to be able to access. Both of these are incredibly helpful for you being able to monitor and record your achievements and progress of your time-reported senator goals. So I will click on the first one. Here you'll have a Google form of which you will fill out your name, of what your goal is. This is something that you all had done during your ASUCR retreat concerning the template that we had listed out for you. I have also included the template of what you filled out physically. You will fill out your knowledge, your skills, resources, action factors. A lot of these things were explained to you over retreat. If you need any clarifications or questions, some of these are actually provided within your folder. Fill the document, you'll submit this, and you will actually be able to see all the responses in the main drive. So you're able to see all the other projects that senators are working on, and if you simply need a project or simply want to lend a helping hand or find that some things need cross-collaboration, You simply have to review the spreadsheet and be able to look at what other senators are working on, and it makes it that much easier to be able to reach out. The second one, and of exceeding importance, is your ASUCR accountability form. This is to ensure your accountability to the student body that elected you, as well as upkeep to your senatorial duties. In previous years, keeping track of how you all went about your goals and your progress was something that was left up to discretion, something that was a use your best judgment kind of process. This now, as you can see, has a time-recorded form for you to be able to go about and be able to fill out. I have, for your convenience, listed out all of your senatorial duties of which you'll need to complete. Beneath it, very simply, I've said just to include your name and the way that you spent your 4 ASUCR hours. I only ask that you include time, date, location, any other necessary information to be able to verify where and when the event was. And you will be able to submit your senatorial update. Beneath it, will you be providing a senatorial update? This is a yes or no question. This is to get away, like I mentioned previously, from fluff reports that previous Senates have given, where nothing of substance was necessarily accomplished, yet under the spotlight to be able to present something, they would talk about and name essentially irrelevant things for the student body. So while we will be taking that spotlight off, if you have something that is necessary to relay and necessary to update, we'll just click yes, and if so, we will write out essentially what you would want to relay. And this will go to me for review, just as it says in the bylaws, for me to review and approve your senatorial updates. Just for clarification, for further accountability, I will be doing random checks on ensuring the validity of attending your senatorial updates. So this being in mind, when sending verification, this can include, and I've actually included it on the form there, ticket stubs, photos of event, email documentation, even taking a selfie at the event, to be able to clarify that you were there and had a timestamp. Keep this in mind just for making sure that you just have documentation of where you are. This is as much for your own benefit as it is for mine and for the student body, so you're able to keep track of your progress. This is something that will be filled out weekly. And of course, when it comes to events and it comes to meetings, you do not need my prior approval. You simply need, you can simply attend to your own discretion and just include it in your hours afterward, and it'll be reviewed. Okay, exiting out of that. Like I said, I did include the template to be able to review. This can be opened up and it can be edited. And I'll take.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay.
For our SARS, for like the approval or proof, I guess, if we're doing like actual off hours and taking working on things, how would we just send what we were working on, or like would we just write out what we were working on, or?
Yes, and you can just give me a time, date, location, and then yeah, for the most part, especially if you're working within the office, there's very clear documentation. To help with the example I listed on your senator goals, I have included a template example so you know how to fill it in, and the descriptions of what they will look like as far as knowledge, skills, resources, strategies, your tactics. These are all things that were covered during retreat, so hopefully this is familiar viewing for all of you. This is precisely intended to assist you with your projects, because having these out in front of you allows you to be able to set time benchmarks to be able to enable SMART goals. Specific, measurable, aligned, realistic, time-bound, in the sense that the goals that you are setting are ones that you can fulfill, and make sure that you know where you're at and where you're going. Okay, and right, like I said, this is something that you'll all be able to log into. You all have your own individual folders and files. Afterward, I will email you all the password to be able to access, and this will be filled out as needed. At this time, are there any questions, concerns about how the ASUCR Drive will work? Great, thank you so much. If you do have any further questions, talk to me afterward or email. All right, we will now move on to
Witness information.
Yes.
So, just now that I've checked like my new bylaws, ones that haven't been updated on the website, can I also have a vote for my staff? It's only 3 individuals, and I can actually preface why I chose them. But I would also need some process.
Okay, that's in order. We will add that to the agenda. Vice President Campus Internal Affairs, if you wouldn't mind providing a bit of a preface on your personnel appointments before we open the floor for motions.
Okay, so the three staff that I have to be approved since they're on payroll are Sean Tazumian, who's my communications director, Corey Willis, sustainability coordinator, Brendan Nair, academic affairs intern. I picked Sean due to his because he was a parliamentarian before in ASUCR. He had already had a lot of experience kind of doing emails, blasting the Senate, kind of coordinating different activities, as well as just his organizational involvement. Corey Willis, who actually already worked for Sustainable UCR, so he already actually had a year of experience beforehand, and he was already currently working under Fortuna Morales in the art garden, so he already had extensive experience working in sustainability, and he was already a member of the board before, so then it was fitting that he would actually become a sustainability coordinator. Brendan Nair, if you know him, he was a senator last year. I think he was, out of all the candidates, he just had the most experience, especially the experience he had on the horseshoe really kind of made him stood out as an academic affairs intern. And I would like to motion to approve my three staff positions.
Okay. Motion by Vice President of Campus Internal Affairs, Fernando, and seconded by Vice President of External Affairs, Abraham Galvan. Are there any other motions on the floor at this time? Okay, seeing none, we'll now proceed with the motion. Once again, we will tear up the slips of paper for a closed ballot personnel approval.
You're all gonna buy me new notebook.
These will be passed around, so we'll all be. Simply hold up your hand once you're finished writing yes, no, or abstain. Okay, if everyone could please return to their seats. Okay. With a vote of 16-0-0, this motion passes. Okay. Continuing Continuing on with our agenda item, we'll now move on to section J, roundtable and announcements. I will begin from my left and work my way to my right. Please keep them brief and I'd say 30 seconds. Okay, Senator Ali Isles. If you do not have, by the way, if you do not have a roundtable announcement or update, you can simply say pass.
Pass.
Senator Colette King.
Yes, I do have an announcement. This summer, I actually was working with the Highlander in order to streamline our meetings to the public. A lot of people can't make these times, so it makes it convenient for people to go online and see our meetings. Not that people are going to like go tune in to next week's Senate meeting, but it does make it more convenient. Also, I've been working with Jeff Koss and Sue McKee on the trolley system that I wanted to put in. Realistically, we're not going to be able to put a trolley system in this year. However, I still want to connect downtown to UCR. And in doing so, we would need to contact private companies such as Lyft, which is what I'm going to be doing right now. And it will really help with the commerce down in downtown Riverside, which is something the city of Riverside wants, and with students being more engaged with the city. Thank you. Oh, and another thing. Sorry. How much more time do I have? I would just like, I can't. Okay. I would just like to add off of what Ravine had said prior. I did get an artist to do the whiteboard showings of what ASUCR is and different aspects of ASUCR. I also am just now realizing that we can also do it for this voter registration thing as to why voting is important and the propositions as well and why we need to vote on them. Thank you.
Before I continue, just a point of clarification on exactly what roundtable and announcements are. Please refrain from using these as a way to mention your report, senatorial update. That's perfectly fine, I understand. But those kind of updates should be saved for your senatorial update report, rather than for announcements. Right. Those lie exactly outside the purview of what you've been doing as a senator.
My apologies.
That's perfectly fine. Okay, moving on. Senator Jackie Jacoby.
Just one today. Hillel's first Shabbat of the quarter is this Friday. It's going to be at my house. So if you want to come, it's obviously it's free for all students. Come meet Hillel. We definitely want to have more ASUCR presence at our events this year. So come out, I'll post my dress on the page and let you all. So come out for really Eastern themed food and music and fun. That's it.
See now, Senator Sandway.
Yes.
Senator Priscilla Perez.
No announcements.
Senator Nina Escobedo.
Pass.
Senator Ringley.
Pass.
Senator Ernest Second.
Yeah, so for those of you that don't know, I'm president of SIG Student Association, and we're having our, I think it's called like kickoff fall quarter with a barbecue, something like that. It's this Friday, and I highly encourage all of you to come. It's a lot of fun. We're gonna have a lot of food, vegetarian, non-vegetarian. Thank you to Reem and Fernando for coming out to our last meeting, and I believe Akeem has been to a barbecue before. He can probably attest to how fun it is. But yeah, and everybody sitting there, it's open. It's gonna be at, I believe it's called Hunter Park on Iowa. It's pretty close. We offer rides if anybody needs that. So I'd love to see all of you there. It's gonna be a lot of fun. There's a Facebook event.
Marketing and Promotions Director, Ravine Thought.
One of the events that Project Rishi is going to be hosting next week, it's for the celebration of Diwali, which is a very culturally significant festival in India. It's kind of like the equivalent of Christmas. The Ras Garba is happening for the first time on campus. It's going to be next Saturday at 8 p.m. Tickets are $10. There's no special clothing required. You can come watch, you can come dance. It's going to be a lot of fun. There's live music and food, and it's going to be in Rec Center North. There's also a Facebook event.
Vice President of Campus Internal Affairs, Fernando.
I'd just like to remind everybody to make sure to volunteer for the Food Truck Festival, make sure to contact Ravine, and get your wallets ready because October 29th there's going to be lots of food on campus. Secondly, if you want to be part of the Transfer Non-Traditional Task Force, we're going to be having our meetings on Friday at 6 p.m. And lastly, SJP with the assistance of ASUCR shall be having a candlelight vigil next week on Wednesday at 7 p.m.
Vice President of External Affairs, Abraham Galvan.
Yeah, so Just a couple announcements. So the voter registration deadline is October 28th. If you haven't registered to vote, make sure you do that. It's on castudentvote.org. And I've passed out to all of Senate the UCSA voter guides with all the composition info on them and whatnot on election days on November 4th. If you need to know where your polling sites or anything like that, it's on the back of that graphic. We also have, my office will be having an action against police brutality in solidarity with Ferguson on October 22nd. It'll be at the Bell Tower around noon, 11:30 to 12 p.m. is when we'll start. So make sure you come out to that, and special thanks to Akeem for asking if we need any help with that. It's always beneficial when people offer their help before the events have started and whatnot. So that's that. Also, we have the Students of Color Conference that are coming up on November 7th through 9th. The deadline has already passed to apply, but we will be taking, I'm excited to announce that we'll be taking 92 students to the Students of Color Conference, which is more than 20, I think almost, or if not more than 20 more than we took last year. So that's also really exciting. So thank you to those who applied. I look forward to seeing you at the Students of Color Conference. I think you'll have a lot to learn.
Thank you. President Nabi. Vice President of Finance, Irish Shen.
Pass.
President Pro Tem Devin Plaza.
Just a few quick announcements. Tomorrow at Heroes Bar and Grill downtown, athletics is doing like a meet and greet and a fan fest. Like Rabin mentioned earlier, we are trying to improve the relationship between ASUCR and athletics. So we would like to see a lot of people out there supporting, increasing school spirit. And second, LRC meetings will be finalized by the end of the week. And I will send out a meeting to the student body, letting them know day and time, either this weekend or sometime at the end of the week.
Elections Director Stephanie Rose. Outreach Director Jessica Martinez.
Hello everyone, I just wanted to invite everyone to the Chicano Latino Orientation Week. As many of our leaders on the Horseshoe are part of different organizations, I myself am chair of Rafa Assembly. And this Thursday is our largest event. We have amazing events that have been going on and are ongoing during the week. But one that I did want to point out that I wanted to invite everyone in the galley and also everyone from the Horseshoe to was our Bienvenida that will take place this Thursday, October 16th, from 4 to 7:30 at the Bell Tower. We will be having Ojo de Agua catering, so everyone can come out to get free tacos. We will be having amazing events, different performances. We also will be having all of our clubs, organizations, and we also are outreaching to the community. So we do have on-campus and off-campus organizations, nonprofits, and other groups that are willing to come on campus to participate in our Bienvenida. So like I mentioned before, 4 to 7:30 this Thursday at the Bell Tower. Be there.
Senator Akeem Brown.
Good afternoon, good evening everyone. Thank you all for hanging in there with us. Next Thursday, the Transfer Commuter Alliance. It is a group for transfer and commuter students, newly founded and started this summer, along with Student Life, and at the sanctioning of Vice Chancellor Jim Sandoval, we will be having a transfer welcome for the first time here on UCR campus, in the spirit of promoting pride and empowerment for students who are here for a short amount of time. So this event's purpose is to encourage those students the moment they get here to take advantage of all the resources, because transfer students, we're only here for a short amount of time. I'd also like to recognize one of those students who is a newly transferred, who has already gotten involved with the transfer leadership, Ms. Tia Bray. I actually met her at the voter registration table, and I also met her over the summer. She's very active and she's ready to help out. So if you all can come out next Thursday, October 23rd, between 12 and 1 p.m., we'll be having a celebration for new transfer students. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Senator Christian Arna. Senator Richard Lee. Pass. Senator Carlson. Pass. Senator Delaney Clark.
Pass.
Senator Summershed.
Pass.
And Senator Pass.
I'm sorry, I have 2 announcements. Would you mind?
Senator Ringway.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I'll be brief.
So the Middle Eastern Student Center is having a, help me out, Herman. We're having a mixer on October 20th, beginning at 6 p.m. until 8 p.m. in Hub 302 South. We invite you all. It's an all-inclusive event, so don't feel discouraged if you're not Middle Eastern. There will be light refreshments and giveaways, so I'll post it on my Facebook. We have flyers, so I'll put those in your cubbies if you're all interested, even if you're not. The other event is the Lebanese Social Club Social, and I'll also give you all invites to that. We really do encourage that people come to these events. You're all senators. I'm sure you want to be active in more things than you already are, right? So we do invite you all to that. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much, Senator Friedlander. We will now proceed with our next item on the agenda for a closed session. To the gallery, I would like to thank you all for coming out to listen to our first kickoff meeting of ASUCR for fall quarter. We definitely appreciate your input, your attendance, and hearing firsthand what your student government is up to. We encourage everyone to attend and get involved any way they can. So thank you all for attending, and have a very good night. We will proceed with closed session in due time.
Just leave us here.
No, closed session is not open to the public.